We live in an age where solitude sounds almost like a sentence. People are taught to fear emptiness, to avoid silence, to fill every evening with meetings, messages, notifications, anything at all. As long as they don't have to be alone with themselves. The world has become noisy, and within that noise, being alone feels wrong. If you're alone, something must be broken. If you don't have a partner, constant plans, or a circle of people around you, you seem to have fallen out of life. But what if it's the other way around? What if the fear of being alone is not about loneliness at all, but about the fear of meeting yourself? Most people are not afraid of silence, they're afraid of what they might hear in it. Because when there's no background noise, distraction fades. And everything you've been hiding comes out. Insecurities, emptiness, fatigue, unanswered questions. You can drown them out with activity, but when you're alone, they become louder. That's why solitude feels unbearable. It doesn't punish, it reveals. It shows what inside of us is still unhealed. It forces us to look directly into ourselves, and not everyone is ready to face what they'll see there. To stop fearing loneliness, you must stop seeing it as an enemy. Loneliness is not a prison. It's a space. It's not the absence of someone. It's the presence of you. And until you learn to exist in that presence peacefully, every connection will be built on the fear of loss. When you're afraid of being alone, you don't choose, you cling. Relationships then become not a source of joy, but a shield against emptiness. Yet emptiness can't be filled with people. It can only be filled with yourself. We confuse loneliness with isolation, but they are not the same. Isolation is when you close yourself off from the world. Loneliness is when you open yourself to yourself. It's not a rejection of others, it's a return home, so that you can later meet others not from fear, but from wholeness. Only a person who can be alone is truly capable of being with someone. Because they don't need others to prove their worth. They don't need to be loved to feel alive. They already are. They already exist. And from that state, love is born, love without dependency, presence without control, connection without fear. To reach that state, you must change your perspective. Don't ask, how do I stop being alone? Ask, why am I afraid of being alone? Fear always points toward pain. Sometimes it's the pain of rejection. Sometimes it's the wound of feeling unseen. Sometimes it's the habit of finding meaning only through others. But fear is not an enemy. It's a messenger. It whispers, this is where you need to look. Don't run, listen. When you stop hiding from your fear of loneliness, it starts to lose power. Because it no longer controls you from the shadows. The biggest paradox is that loneliness ends not when someone arrives, but when you stop running from it. The moment you accept it, it dissolves. Because loneliness is not a fact, it's a perception. It's not where you are, it's how you see. One person can be alone and feel whole. Another can be surrounded by attention and feel unbearably lonely. The difference is inner connection. To build that connection, practice presence. Just be with yourself, no background, no tasks, no escape. Sit in silence for 5 minutes a day and simply notice. Don't try to meditate correctly. Don't analyze. Just breathe and watch what happens inside. It's like meeting yourself again. At first, it's awkward. Then it becomes natural. And one day you realize that within you exists a source of calm that doesn't depend on anyone. Loneliness stops being scary when you fill the space with your own essence. When you find what truly engages you, what makes the day feel alive. It can be anything. A thought, a movement, creation, observation. Anything that brings you back into contact with the moment. Because the fear of being alone is, in truth, the fear of losing connection to life itself. But life never leaves. We only turn away from it when we begin to search for meaning solely outside ourselves. To learn to be alone means to learn to exist without needing to constantly prove something. It's a quiet strength that grows in stillness. When you no longer crave constant attention or validation, you begin to live deeper. You stop being a reflection of others' opinions. You become a mirror for yourself. And in that mirror, calmness is born, not the superficial kind that comes from confidence, but the deeper kind that can't be shaken. To stop fearing solitude, you must release the idea that happiness only comes through others. Yes, relationships matter, but they are not the goal, they are an addition. You cannot build a healthy bond if you cannot stand alone. Because then you don't enter relationships as a whole person, you enter as a plea, complete me. But no one can fill what you haven't accepted in yourself. They can be beside you, but not inside you. So the most honest thing you can do for your future connections is to learn how to be with yourself in silence. That way, when someone comes into your life, you won't lose yourself. You won't disappear. You'll remain whole. Many people think that accepting solitude will make them detached, but the opposite happens. When you stop fearing being alone, you begin to feel life more vividly. You make room for real connection, for love, for inspiration. Because the fear of loneliness is not about others, it's about a lack of trust in yourself. Once that fades, what remains is quiet certainty. I am here, and that's enough. The point is not to isolate yourself, but to choose presence consciously. You can be among people or alone, and in both cases, remain whole. Because solitude is not punishment, it's freedom. It gives you a chance to hear yourself before the world drowns you out again. Life doesn't require constant company to be full. It requires awareness. And when you shift your attention away from fear, to your breath, your body, the reality of now, anxiety dissolves. Because the fear of being alone is the fear of losing control. But peace arrives the moment you realize, control is unnecessary. Everything is already unfolding. Everything is already alive. Silence is not an enemy. It doesn't threaten, it heals. It brings you home, to the place within you that has always been there. When you stop fearing loneliness, you stop fearing yourself. And that is true liberation. Because then, wherever you are, whatever happens, you are never really alone. You are with yourself. And that is always enough.